You've got your tea or coffee with you. We're going to be looking at Apple's iWork suite and having a look at some of the tools and the updates that have just been released, and maybe some applications for teachers going forward and how they can use them in their classrooms or with their students. And so we'll be looking at Keynote, we'll be looking at Pages. The updates have been around for a little while now, a couple of weeks, so it's been a good opportunity to get in there and have a look at them and see what's different about new applications. And it's always an exciting time when companies like Apple or Microsoft or Google release updates and we can have a look at the cool new features that are in there. So let me share my screen, my iPad screen, and we shall go from here. Hopefully you are seeing an iPad screen, which would be great if you are. So basically we're going to have a look at the iWork suite. So what I'm going to do is jump into one of my favorite applications, which is Keynote, and have a little bit of a look. Now, you can already see just by jumping into Keynote that we've got some new kind of themes and color palettes going forward. It looks pretty spectacular, I think. We've got some retro kind of colors and some really nice color palettes going forward, which is really cool. So if we go with let's just go with the presentation that I recently used, which is this kind of retro one. You can see that basically the same functionality in Keynote going forward. Lots of nice kind of frames and different things going with each of the designs, which is terrific. And if I just go down the bottom here and bring in a blank slide, I wanted to show you some of the new shapes that Keynote's got. So if I hit my plus at the top and I go to my second little tab at the side, you can see we have some brand new shapes to play with. So we've got things like ornaments. They've added to some of the existing categories across here, which is fantastic. And one that I particularly like is right at the start, you'll see objects, but you'll also see geometry. So we've got these kind of 3D, they're not actually 3D, but kind of nets that we could probably use for mathematics and science and some different aspects there, and they're looking really, really good. The other thing that I like is some of the new gradients that they've kind of put through. So if I click on one of my shapes and go up to my paintbrush at the top, you'll see that we can obviously fill them. And we've always been able to do that, but we've got some really nice kind of gradient colors that we can actually do as well. The other thing that might be relevant for you guys is that obviously with shapes we can break apart, which we've always been able to do, but I love the fact that we can use that in 3D shapes now, which is pretty cool. We can start to look at nets and 3D shapes and putting them together and tangrams and a whole range of different things, which is pretty cool. One of my favorite things or updates with iWork is our ability now to select multiple shapes in a really easy and efficient manner. In the past, especially with little shapes, you have to hold your finger down, you've got to tap the other one, and it can be very hard, especially for little fingers, for some of our younger students. So now all we need to do is actually tap on the side and actually drag across the entire shape. So obviously we could select all like that, but we actually can just drag our finger over and multiple select over all of the shapes that are there. So that's a cool new feature in regard to kind of adding some different things in regard to holding down and just kind of dragging over. One of the things is worth doing is just hold your finger down for a good 3 or 4 seconds before you actually drag your finger over. And you can see there that I can multiple select. So I think this is one of the functionality or tools or the way we actually use applications that's highly effective. Being able to hold your finger down and drag over the top, that's been something that other apps have had for a little while, and it's a great new update for Keynote. It will help our little learners a lot in regard to making multiple selections. And then we can do things obviously like group those and manipulate our images and our visuals a little bit more easily. So a couple of new things there, obviously the themes, which are looking good in regard to those different things. And we've got shapes and we've got our ability to multi-select different objects by basically placing our finger on our screen for a couple of seconds and then just dragging our finger over the shapes that we actually want to select, which I think is a cool new feature going forward. There's a couple of little new text effects. So if I just say that, if I type in Apple iWork here, a couple of things that might be worth looking at. They've got a couple of new animation aspects that we can actually use. So we can actually animate that. We can do build in, and there's a couple of new things. I think Trace has been there for a little while in regard to, that's a nice little feature in regard to an add-in. And we've also got kind of keyboard, which gives that kind of typewriter effect as well. So there's some new kind of built-in animation effects that have just come through as well, which is pretty cool. The other thing that I really love and that I've been hoping for a while is our ability to export keynotes in different forms with comments. So if I hold my finger down and I make a little comment, say, Bob, great use of design, we can obviously put those comments around on our screen to give a little bit of feedback for our students. But I love the new feature too, which I don't think existed before, is our ability to export in different formats. So if I wanted to export that as a PDF, I can actually turn on those comments, and that allows me to actually export that as a PDF to send to my students with the comments on there. And so that's a kind of a new feature, a new tool in Keynote, which I think is a really good one in regard to giving feedback to your students going forward. So there's Keynote, a couple little things in Keynote. Other thing I just wanted to show you, which is in Pages. If I go to a new one, we've got some new templates here. Obviously, we've got some really nice photo books and some different things in regard to publishing. We want our students to be authors and illustrators and artists. So it's always good to actually have some great templates that the students can jump straight into. If I jump into the contemporary novel template and show you one of my favorite things here. So if I go to the prologue here and I just go into my text, and if I just go, say, up the top here, and I just type something in the text, the thing that I absolutely love is our ability now to do some drop caps. So if I go up to my paintbrush at the top here, let me get rid of that so you can see. Down the bottom, there's a little tab or a little button that calls drop cap there, and I can actually place it. And so we can do some really cool stuff with that. We've got some drop cap options as well in regard to making things bigger, the different shapes, the text size. But what that does is it creates that little drop cap with the text that can be kind of around the outside of it to give that capital letter a little bit of emphasis going forward. So this is great if the students are creating little wanted posters or some sort of period piece where they're actually writing and they'd like to incorporate a drop cap at the start of their paragraphs. So there's a couple of really nice features going forward there. You can see some really nice new templates in Pages, which is fantastic. Keynote has some nice new text effects, which is great, including those themes and those color palettes and different things, but also some of the new shapes that Apple have incorporated into their toolbox there. And once again, there are some other beautiful new features, as in holding our finger down, being able to do multi-selects, ungroup, and a range of different there. So just a couple of new things that I wanted to bring to your attention. Some of them will have, hopefully you can use with your students at school. I'd encourage you to jump into Keynote and Pages and see if there's anything that I've missed. Would love for you to kind of share with the UTB team some of the tips that you've found, some of the little tools in iWork that I might have missed. Paul Hamilton. Oh, let's go back. Let's say goodbye. We should be a little bit more polite going forward, shouldn't we? I'll stop sharing my screen. There I am. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please stay tuned. We're doing these 10-minute tech tips over tea every morning. We've been doing it for the last week or so and getting some great feedback. We cover Google, we cover Microsoft and Apple's little tech tips for each of those platforms. So join us each morning. And this is Paul Hamilton here signing off. Hope you have a wonderful day.